It's Slate Night, the Film Fan Podcast. Now, here are your hosts, Corey and Mason.
Hello and welcome to Slate Night, the Film Fan Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Mason Schmidt, here with my best bud, Corey Knudsen.
Ew.
As we get ready to crack some cold ones and talk about movies, today we'll be discussing what films we've seen lately, what new releases are on the horizon, and we'll also provide updates on some physical media releases and new notable developments within the world of movies. But first, Corey, how have you been? And second, what will we be drinking today?
Hey, audio listeners, did you like the ad you
Yeah,
just
how
heard
was the
before?
ad that you just got?
You probably skipped it.
Yeah,
that's okay. But it's something I wanted to just shout it out quick. We were kind of excited about it. We got like a little notification that we're eligible for like some paid ads on the podcast.
Yeah.
We reached like a certain threshold. So just want to say thank you to everybody that has listened, that has recommended it to any other people that think might like movies. Couldn't be doing it without you guys. So
I'm sure other podcasts hit that benchmark for monetization way earlier than we did, but that is A-okay. I'm just happy we got there, and then whatever 14 cents we make off of this podcast, it's a win. It's gone towards a movie ticket, so it's fine.
Yeah, so we're just really appreciative of that. I remember when we started this in November on election night was our first video.
I forgot about that.
I remember
That's crazy.
like talking about like, yeah, we want to make like some amount of money within a year of doing this. So
Yeah.
we've kind of started to get to that point maybe. So just want to say thank you and just keep recommending to people if you think they would like it.
The next episode, we just come on wearing all Gucci. Like, it just really paid off. It really worked for us.
We use that $3 very well. But anyways, this week we are drinking Hazy Shades, which is a New England IPA made by Inbound Brew Company out of Minneapolis. Really cool can, like a 70s kind of disco type thing. Some dude with a mustache. I don't know who it is.
It looks like Freddie Mercury a little bit, just with more of a fro.
A little bit, yeah. But this shit's really good.
Yeah, this is just turning into like the IPA show. These past like 3 or 4 weeks, I feel like we've had IPAs, which I like because it's, again,
except for the Twisted Tea episode.
Except for the Twee, which I should not have had that many, which is very apparent if you watch through or listen through all of that recording. That was rough for me. But yeah, I have no idea what makes it a New England IPA. I'm sure someone knows. I'm probably going to have to ask like my uncle or my brother who are IPA drinkers to like really get that. Love that sound's going off.
It's good stuff.
Car right outside, but
love it.
Yeah, no, it's pretty good. We haven't described really why we think beers are good, but this one isn't too strong or too hoppy, and I think those are the only beer term. Hoppy is like the one beer term I know, and for that I like this. This is promising.
This is why we have a movie podcast
and not a beer. We just drink beer.
Or even like food. Some people talk about food and drinks in very specific ways, and I'm always very impressed.
Yeah.
And then I'm just like, I don't know, it tastes good.
It's like
I'm not very
about
picky.
that mouthfeel.
I'm just like,
how's it feeling there?
Like, oh, that burger's disgusting. I'm like, it's a burger. It's pretty good, man. Like, it's a White
It
Castle
is wet as
briefcase.
fuck, and I like it.
Yeah. So, that's why we're doing this instead. But we got some fun stuff to talk about this week, so we're going to dive in first with Weapons.
Yeah, I think both you and I's, one of our more anticipated films, at least for the latter half of this year, is Weapons, which was directed by Zach Kreger, coming off of Barbarian. He also, for me, was near and dear to my heart because of the Whitest Kids You Know, a sketch team on YouTube. I used to watch all their videos growing up, and they had just the right stupid, ludicrous humor. Like the Abe Lincoln sketch.
Calm down, John.
Calm down, John. Just listen to the woman, John. Just calm down. And then someone goes and kills. It was John Wilkes Booth kills Abraham Lincoln. And just very funny, off the wall, stupid humor. But this film starring Julia Garner, Josh Brolin, Alden Ehrenreich, who is actually a big surprise to me. I completely forgot he was in this movie. And then, of course, Benedict Wong, who I feel like is a plus to any movie he's in. Most of the MCU, I think it's just the Wongiverse at this point.
Yeah. Also want to shout out Austin Abrams and Amy Madigan as well. We'll get into that. But 2 other great supporting performances
and
there.
If you've seen the trailer, the posters even kind of allude to it. It's about this disappearance of almost an entire classroom of kids. 17 children disappear at 2:17 a.m. and you've seen in the trailers they all left their houses. They weren't forced out, they just ran, and they Naruto ran out into the woods. And this is the mystery that surrounds that. And where are these kids? What's going on? Are they dead? Are they somewhere hidden? Like, who has them? What's going on? Going in, this movie very clearly has been marketed more of like a horror film. Whether or not I've seen some people since seeing this movie that I'm like some people think it's a horror movie and it lives into that. I am more in the boat of where this feels more like a thriller. I feel like for marketing purposes, it's easier to market this premise as a horror film, but I think it's a good thriller, and it handles the missing person kind of premise the best I've seen since maybe Prisoners. So that was like one of the comparisons I had to it. for this movie, as well as it made me think a lot of Longlegs, which we have on 4K right here. But Longlegs, a movie that I don't love, but there are a lot of similarities as you get into the thick of weapons. Similarities to Longlegs that kind of were surprising to me. It worked better for me in Weapons than it did in Longlegs, but now I'm itching to go back and watch Longlegs, even though they're from different directors. But overall, I've found this movie massively satisfying. We'll dive into a little bit deeper thoughts on it. Corey, I want to get your base thoughts on what you thought of this movie, though.
Yeah, much like you, this was the movie for the rest of the year I was looking forward to after Fantastic Four. So I really loved it, and the marketing for this movie was great. All of the little teasers, and then they created the website for the missing kids, and
the Maybrook connection between this and Barbarian, because I think Barbarian is set in that same town of Maybrook where Weapons takes place. Not that the movies are 100% connected, but it's it feels almost like Stephen King-esque of oh, we're diving into Derry, Maine, or Castle Rock, we're getting something established within a community.
Yeah, and marketing kind of felt like Blair Witch Project in a way too, when that was coming out of people being was this real or whatever. So great marketing, and it reminded me in the trailers of that shot of the kids with their arms running, like you mentioned. It reminded me of the shot in the Us trailer when the family is standing in the driveway. There's very certain shots in some horror movie trailers that just are seared into my head, and then I'm oh, it just leaves me in a state of shock almost, where I'm just I need to figure out what that is immediately.
That, and when they break from, in Us, in that trailer and in the movie, when they break from that stance, and it's just oh, shit's gonna go down, and the family's just oh, what do we do? What do we do? Where do we go?
Yeah, so just very great marketing campaign, and especially in the past couple weeks, it's really built up a lot of people, even not huge moviegoers, just general public, I feel getting excited for this movie.
Oh, yeah.
And I really like this movie too. I think I'm a little bit lower on it than you are, but I still really like it. It's in my top 10 for the year. I think it's one of the best made movies. Zach Kreger is, with this and Barbarian, I have really enjoyed both movies. I think that he's got a great balance of tones for the most part, I think, with humor and some horror and thriller and a lot of different elements. He does a mostly good job of doing that. And the performances here are all great. Julia Garner is having a great year with Wolfman, Fantastic Four, First Steps, and then this movie. She's showing her range. I love her in Ozark, too. She's incredible in that show. So I love seeing her getting these bigger roles because she really is good and has great range. Josh Brolin, I think, brings the toughness and kind of the gruff dad nature of just wanting to find his kid, because his kid was one that was in the class that disappeared. So he's great. I know the role was originally cast with Pedro Pascal.
I'm so happy that it
I just think
go that way.
Yeah, I just think Josh Brolin fits that kind of gruff nature better, of being I need to find my kid at whatever cost. I don't care what the cops are doing. So, performances all across the board, really, really good. Amy Madigan, like I mentioned, she is somebody that I remember seeing in Field of Dreams, and Uncle Buck is another movie too. So, great to see her in a completely different role that I've never seen from her before. I didn't know she was capable of this at all, but she was great. And it really does have a great concept. It has some fun nonlinear storytelling that I really enjoy, much like Barbarian did.
Yeah.
And I think that overall it's a very enjoyable and good moments of tension throughout the movie as well. So definitely would recommend this movie. I think we're maybe going to get into some spoiler-ish, or if you don't want to know much about the movie, because I think it's best going in as blind as possible.
Yeah.
I think we're going to dive in a little bit deeper, but would recommend this movie just because it's an original horror thriller that does so many great things and has just a lot of great craft behind it.
Having seen Weapons and Barbarian, which I feel like most people that are really excited for Weapons are going off of the hype or the experience that they had with Barbarian and have that expectation of this is going to be something wild and fun and interesting and scary. And I think both of these movies are just really good companion pieces. They have similar, they do interesting stuff with the structure of the film, and this movie we get a bunch of different perspectives of the characters throughout the community, which at times, I gave this movie an A+. I love this movie. It's my number 2 of the year. But at times they do things that I'm I don't dislike it. I would have preferred it this way, but I also like what this means for the overarching community and the story that surrounds this movie. There are things with the perspectives where we kind of branch out more so from the original characters that I went into the movie expecting to see a lot of, like Julia Garner and Josh Brolin. There are more characters that we get with Alden Ehrenreich, Benedict Wong. Austin Abrams' character gets fully developed, and we get to see their distinct perspectives throughout this movie, which at times I was like, I came into this movie really excited to have this be almost like the Julie Garner, Josh Brolin show, and at times it very well is, but it also cuts between a lot of different people and a lot of different perspectives that give a sprawling view of what this community is like and how it's been kind of plagued by this tragedy of, are these kids dead or are they missing? Like, what happened? And I think that they handled the complexity of Julia Garner's character. She's the teacher. She is the one person that all of these students have in common. So obviously, at least if you're one of the townspeople, obviously she's part of the reasoning behind this. And I think that they handled the frustration of the parents, especially you get that with Josh Brolin, and some like really devastating scenes of like him sleeping in his child's bed. And like, because it has like Batman covers, which I was like, that's kind of cool. Because I remember there was a time when you might have been in the running for Batman, so that's kind of cool.
Also had a Mad Max Fury Road poster.
Oh, I saw that too.
Yeah,
oh, I was like so hyped about
this kid's
that. Like,
sweet.
This kid's awesome.
He gets
like,
it.
Yeah, but sleeping in his kid's bed and just like, speak to me, Matthew. Like, where are you? What happened? And him just being so devastated. Basically, that Hugh Jackman are all in prisoners, looking for any sort of answer at any turn, whether it's through the police and what they're able to find, or if it's something he needs to do detective work of his own. But I liked what they did with Julia Garner of like, she's afflicted by this. Like, everyone's assuming that she's in the wrong and she had some hand in this. But she's also like dealing with alcoholism, and that's her only way of kind of coping. And she lives alone. She's a teacher in a town that is relatively new to her. She got kind of kicked out of her current teaching position in whatever other town, and now she's here and doesn't know a lot of people. And we get some of her connections through Alden Ehrenreich and stuff like that. So I think that they did a good job of really developing that character and making it more like lived in and real, as opposed to just like, she wasn't 100% of this movie ate up by the mystery. There are times when she's just like, oh, there's Alden Ehrenreich, like, hi, how are you? Like, she was a person within this tragedy as opposed to being completely enveloped by the tragedy, which I was like, oh, I was kind of surprised by that. And this film also has great bouts of humor, which when it comes to films, because again, this was marketed as a horror film, I would probably, after having seen it, say it's more of a thriller. There are some good bouts of tension and suspense and even a couple of jump scares, and I get why they market it as a horror film. This is more of a thriller for me, but I think that they did a really good job of establishing comedy, but not at the kind of expense of good tension. There are moments in this movie that play almost like a jump scare or as a horrific thing, but then the repetition of it leads it into comedy. Like, it allows the audience to kind of catch wind of what it's going for, so then you're laughing at the situation as opposed to being like, well, this feels awkward. It's more like, oh, I see. Okay, no, this would be funny. Like, even though this is a very horrific situation, this would be kind of funny. So this movie really won me over. I think that this is one of the best balances of humor and horror, and not doing one over the other. It's taking one and transforming it into the other, which I feel like I haven't really seen a lot in horror films, at least recently. So I was blown away by this movie. It's unpredictable in some aspects. There's one thing that you and I talked about before we started recording where it's like, once we got to a point in the story, I kind of knew a big chunk as in terms of what the resolution of this film might be. But getting into the movie and just where it was going, it felt unpredictable. And I've seen interviews with Zach Kreger where he was like, I just started with what's interesting. We got this time. We got these kids. They're at school, but what if they're not at school? And like how he kind of stumbled into this premise and how he just wrote without thought, basically. Not that he didn't do this intuitively, but he found the story as it made sense to him. And he kind of gradually wrote through the story, not with an overarching idea in his head. It was just like he found the story through the writing of it. And I think that fits the movie, and it's very unpredictable. Sure, there are things that I'm like, that's okay, I kind of see where you're going here, and I could get ahead of the movie at times. I was still deeply satisfied. The movie has good bouts of humor, good moments of tension. It wasn't as scary as I was really wanting it to be, but so I was so surprised by the rest of this movie that I'm not going to hold that as a true negative. I could have done with less perspectives, but I also love that the perspectives gave us a better view of this community and how it really is encountering this horrific thing that happened. So it has similarities to Longlegs. I'll let you kind of dive into that if you want, especially with specific characters. But everything that Longlegs tried to do, I think Weapons did it tenfold, did it better. And I was so satisfied with this movie. I can't wait to see it again.
I would agree. I like Weapons a little bit more than Longlegs. And Longlegs is one I like a little bit more than you, yeah. I know. But I enjoyed what you mentioned about the perspectives of everyone in this town. Of Julia Garner, I think somebody has a line in this movie where they're like, she's a great teacher, but as a person, she has a troubled past.
Yeah.
Which is just great depth, and really the first act of this movie is just kind of a drama, honestly.
100%.
Like, it's not a horror movie. It really is like you get some narration at the beginning of how we got to this point of the kids disappearing, her and then one other student being the only people left of this class, and then it's like even the narration says like this is where the story starts, and then you jump right into it with Julia Garner's character.
And it's at that student teacher almost like press conference basically where they're like, all right, like I know tensions are hot. Yeah, a community meeting of like what's happening.
Yeah, and so I think it's very smart to start out with her, and you kind of mentioned like her alcoholism and just being very paranoid of like people, writing stuff on her car, and just she's like, I didn't do anything. Like I'm also trying to figure this out. And you see her like trying to talk with the one kid that was left, but the principal, played by Benedict Wong, is like, don't just leave the kid alone. Like he's gone through a lot as well, so like just let him be.
Yeah. I know you have questions, but don't be selfish. Like this is a child.
Yeah,
leave him.
But then you understand where she's coming from too, where she's like, this is my class of kids. Like I want to find out where they are. But then you understand the parents once you shift to Josh Brolin's point of view, and you see like him sleeping in his kid's bed, like you said. And I really like seeing him just like getting out a map and just like being like, all right, here's where this kid's house was, here's this, like drawing lines, doing this, like could they have met here, like where were they running to. I like that kind of stuff in like these missing people movies.
Almost like Zodiac, that self-detective work of like, how can we figure this out?
Like the police aren't doing as much as probably like as we want them to. So I thought that was one of the stronger elements of the movie, and that kind of first act was those two, Julia Garner and Josh Brolin. In that second act, like you mentioned, we get more character perspectives where I think I like the nonlinear storytelling, and like you said, going back to different moments and seeing, the different perspectives of what was happening there.
Yeah, I think one of my favorite parts of the movie is seeing how it differs from who is the aggressor in a situation versus who is on the receiving end of something, and how people misremember or remember things kind of almost to their benefit at times, or just from a different viewpoint. It's almost like, that's so cool. I love that detail. Yeah,
and I think it works in part to flesh out the community and to see how, like, what everyone is doing in this time, how everyone got to this point as we kind of reach this crescendo, all the storylines, all the characters meet at one point. I think it's just that first act was really strong for me, and I really wanted to follow those characters more. And I think you could still see a lot of those side characters through those first two viewpoints, and it would still work just as well, and you wouldn't need a specific like chapter dedicated to that person. I think you could dedicate one of those chapters and kind of have it focus through Julia Garner or Josh Brolin. So like the middle act of the movie is kind of those other like three perspectives, I think it is. Still good, like I said, building out the community I liked. And then you get into the third act where all of it kind of meets up, and going to get into spoilers, I kind of want to mention like a few little things here and there. I'm not going to say maybe all the specifics, but Amy Madigan's character is the aunt of Alex, the one kid who was left in the classroom. You find out that she is kind of this culty witch person who has sticks that she rips and bells that she rings and all kinds of weird culty things you would expect. And you find out that she's kind of been behind all of this. She's like, dying or withering away, and she needs this like life force almost from these kids or people in the town, whatever. And I think for me, we talked about it last week, like the premise of this movie is so great that I'm going to need the payoff to be just as good. For me personally, I don't know that the payoff was as interesting, and it's tough to do with a setup like this. But I just felt like a cult witchy thing being the whole kind of finale. I was like, okay, that like it makes sense in the movie. It's not like a wrong turn anywhere, really. It works. But for me, I was kind of left a little disappointed just because the third act, I'm like, okay, some of the side characters we followed in their perspectives aren't key players in this act, so we spent a lot of time with them, and now they're kind of just background or like somebody we're fighting for a second, and then we kind of move on. And then along with like the witchy cult thing, I was just like, it's fine. It just didn't blow me away like many people had said in like reviews too. Were like, this is the most insane ending I've seen in 2025. I'm like, kind of, like not really for me. But like I said, it's not bad. I don't think it's a wrong move anywhere. It just didn't live up to the premise for me.
Yeah, and I get that. And the answer to what is happening to these kids or where these kids are, it's not that it wasn't satisfying to me. It gives enough of an answer to where I'm like, yes, this makes sense within the context of the story. It works. And then all that kind of, because I wasn't dissatisfied with it. I wasn't sitting there like, all right, well, that's not enough. Like, this movie doesn't really work. It was like, that answers it enough. And then the payoff towards the end, that's where the satisfaction came in. And like, okay, now we're having fun. Like, now, like, we've gotten through this premise. We've gotten through the answer to where these kids are. The kids are found. What's going on? Perfect. I love the way that this movie resolves. I was really appreciative of kind of the vagueness surrounding some of the stuff that this aunt, played by Amy
Madigan.
Yep. I almost said McDilla, and I'm like, I don't know if that's a name. But Amy Madigan, I love the vagueness around her and her practice. You can kind of, based on what she repeats through different trances she kind of expels, you can kind of get kind of an understanding as to what's going on, but you don't know the full, like, roots of it or where it comes from. You can kind of just, like, all right, if you've seen a couple of horror movies, you can piece something together, and that, for me, that works. I don't want an over-explanation of it, not that I think that you do either. I've just seen in other reviews people being like, it's kind of underbaked, underdeveloped. I'm like, well, it's not necessarily the point. Like, if you knew how she did this, is that really changing anything for where this movie is going? I don't think so. I do... kind of what you were saying, I think that there is in a different world, this is a movie that could be split strictly between Julia Garner and Josh Brolin. Mm-hmm. One of my favorite books of all time is Gone Girl, which is also one of my favorite movies of all time. But in the book, it is distinctly written between Nick Dunn and Amy Dunn, and their perspective shifting back and forth throughout this whole thing, and where they're friendly with each other and then they're villains to each other. And I think you could do a similar thing with that within this movie, of Josh Brolin and Julia Garner, but then you might lose some of that perspective that I've actually really come to enjoy and love with this movie. So, like, there was nothing that was happening on screen that I typically felt was an expense of something else. Like, I didn't feel like I was missing out on something. I think what this movie gives you in terms of a premise, in terms of a mystery, gets you through a lot of that first act. Not that the first act is a slog. This movie's 2 hours long, too, for being kind of a horror thriller that's a bit on the long side. I was never bored. Even when I found out what the answer was to where these kids were or what was happening, I was never bored. Because then we get the perspective of one of the perpetrators of this big tragedy is Alex, the kid that is a part of this class, that is the only lone survivor, basically, that's still around and people can kind of ask questions to. And getting to see his perspective of the thing and just the horrors that he's facing, it's like, wow, I just wasn't expecting this level of depth to this mystery, which I really enjoyed, even if the kind of reveal of who is perpetrating it wasn't the most, like, subtle, because we get teases of Gladys, the character, throughout the movie, and then we see her and it's like, okay, I've seen your stature, your frame, your vibrant colors, your craziness already, and now to see you as a character actually introduced in this movie, I know you're someone important. Oh, you're the villain. That doesn't take away from what we're getting, because now we get the perspective of Alex, who has to fucking deal with Gladys every single waking day, and his routine is shifted, and his mom and dad are sat at a table stabbing forks into their face. Like, the swings that this movie takes, one, I think they deliver, but also I was just like, holy shit, that's a massive swing. So it was just like a lot of respect, and also it gave me a lot of enjoyment. So my biggest gripe, which I've kind of softened on as a gripe, just because I've run into this with a lot of movies, at least over the past couple of years, specifically with, like, Presents, where I'm like, give me a good horror movie. Well, it's not really a horror movie, it's more of a drama. Give me a good horror movie together, which together at times is like body horror, but it wasn't like, I want to be scared. Like, I want to be scared by these movies. There are moments of tension within Weapons, I will say, that kind of got under my skin. The premise, my favorite thing that this movie has ever done is that imagery of, there's a specific shot of one of the kids running across a road, and it's mostly in the trailers, and you get it in this movie, I think, also, but it's without sound, and it's just the kid running, and arms outstretched, and just the intrigue of that alone terrifies me. Not that there's a lot in this movie left that really lived up to that kind of elevated point of fear. You get a couple of jump scares. You get Gladys and her idiosyncrasies that are frightening and off-putting. But this movie was never like a full-fledged horror movie for me, which isn't a weak point. It's just I went into it kind of expecting that. But I still had a great time. It was thrilling. It had good suspense. I will say that even as a thriller, like, everything just worked. I was super excited by it. I had a great time. I can't wait to watch it again in theaters. I really grew to love a lot of these characters. Austin Abrams in this movie, who I don't know if I've ever recognized in stuff prior to this movie, he was one of the big takeaways for me, and he was surprising. I thought his performance, and you brought this up to me, but I also had this thought in the movie was like, wow, this guy reminds me of someone I really know. Like, maybe I'm related to him. Like, weird. And he's acting in a way, I'm like, not that he's doing shady shit, it's just his mannerisms. I was like, that reminds me of someone. Tyler, if you're watching this, watch Weapons and tell me that doesn't remind you of our brother Austin. But
Austin Abrams, want to shout out, very good in Brad's Status with Ben Stiller from 2017. Yeah. Really good movie. But yeah, I want to touch on like the part of the ending too, and why, like, kind of the horror element of like why it didn't work as much as a horror movie. I think the first two acts have a lot of really good, like, those tension building scenes that were actually like pretty creepy to me for a few of them. One with a person sleeping in a car, and then a person walking out of a house.
That is maybe the best moment of the movie.
That's my favorite scene in the movie, and I think it's handled incredibly well, directed great. And there's like a few dream sequences that I think have pretty good moments too. So I really like that in the first couple acts. And then the third act, it starts to dive more into a little bit of the humor of some things, which I think I think that's fine, but I think that also is maybe why the resolution didn't work for me as well, because I wanted it to keep up that really eerie and creepy, like, what's going on here? And towards the end, even though I like how the ending wraps up, I like the act of that happening. What leads up to it feels a little like slapstick comedy of just like, oh, we're chasing somebody, wow, my arms, I'm like, wow, I'm running and I'm like, I don't know if that's like the tone that I'm looking for right now. Like, I wanted this to be a bit more dark and seedy and really just be like, oh, like really feel it, because it is dark, but it comes off the heels of something that's a little bit funny, and like neighbors reacting to this thing, like mowing their lawn and looking over and seeing these kids chasing somebody. I'm like,
running.
That's kind of funny, but I don't know if I need a joke right now. I don't think that's the right move exactly.
Yeah, I feel like there's many ways you could. Well, specifically, you could play it in a humorous way, which in the tail end of this movie, it does. I agree with you. It does lean more into the humor of it, or you could have played it serious. Which, like, Long Legs for me, because I just feel like these movies are so similar in terms of like kind of what's going on behind the scenes of things. Long Legs for me played everything so serious, and that didn't work for me. And I was still like, not that didn't work for me. It was just like the movie as a whole didn't work for me. And then this movie plays a lot of things with a humor spin on it, and it worked for me. And I'm like, weird that I went into this horror movie expecting something that was going to be really downright serious and depressing and really like dour in tone, and then I get something like this that's making me kind of chuckle with it, which it worked for me. I also, that's one of the kind of caveats with this movie where I'm like, there's other ways I could have saw this going, and I would have liked them either way. I like what we've gotten, but I'm like, I don't know if this was the best way. One thing that you did bring up, though, with the dream sequences, and this isn't like an original thought that I had. This isn't something I even thought about during the movie. I think I was watching Chris Stuckman's review, and he talked about how the dream sequences within this movie, they don't play out like a scene and then reveal to you that they're a dream. And that was something that I was like, holy shit, that is such a massive plus, because I'm tired of that fucking trope in horror films of you can kind of feel it in horror films when it's a dream sequence, even though the movie's not letting you know that yet. You can feel like the haze around the screen, like the characters in this position or in this like setting that's kind of unsettling. You're like, this feels off. And then of course they get like a jump scare. Usually is the end of a dream sequence that I've seen in pretty much every other horror movie except for this, where they lead off. This is a dream sequence. This person is asleep. This is what they're thinking about. And especially with Josh Brolin's character, of how that ties into the mystery of things and how that drives the story forward. I feel like dream sequences have become such an easy scare within common horror films that have come out, where it's just like we can set up something and pay it off really quick, and that gets us through a scare every 10 minutes or every 10 pages. Like, I want something that means something. And in these movies, in this movie, we learn of a dream sequence. We experience this character sleeping, and then we see their thought process, their nightmare that they're going through, and how it leads them further into the mystery. And not only that, with specifically Josh Brolin's character, it helps him to kind of counterpoint and like, all right, well, this is where he was going. This leads here. And I think you get a lot of good detective work with Josh Brolin's character, but that also springs off of the video he has from his like Ring camera of his kid leaving that he watches on repeat, and then the nightmare that he has of where are you going? What's going on? And I was just so enthralled by that. So again, not an original thought. I can only credit Chris Stuckman, but that was an awesome detail that I was kind of oblivious to when I first saw the movie, and then hearing about that, I'm like, God, that's so well done. And to have it actually be incorporated within the story and have it have consequences within the remaining portion of the film, I was like, exceptional.
Yeah, and I think that scene specifically is one of my favorite. That sequence of Josh Brolin's dream is great of his character, but then also tying into some themes of like the weaponization of children, just in general, with kind of dark forces, whether it be like a witch in this movie or in like real life too. I mean, I don't know, randomly I thought about Ivan's childhood, which I talked about a few months back when I watched it, and just how like children in war and their use and how people manipulate them and use them and all this kind of stuff. So it kind of ties into this too, of just like how people see children. They're like, oh, I can use them to do
something
for my own agenda or whatever. So I think it works in terms of that, but also the cap of that Josh Brolin dream sequence is like a pretty funny moment. I'd said to you, it's like the hardest I laughed in the movie, and it's it's not a joke or anything. It's just
something
his
very relatable too.
His reaction of just like waking up from it and what he does, that I think was like a great balance of that humor and tone. And then when it like in that third act, like I said, some of the more extended humor things, I was like, okay, that doesn't work quite as well, but a really, really solid movie. I think Zach Kreger directed this movie well.
Oh, yeah.
Another scene, just kind of, not like a consequential scene that I just stuck out to me, was Julia Garner is in the liquor store, and she's just going to get a bottle of whatever. And she is being followed by a woman in the movie. I won't say who it is.
Yeah.
But the way that the camera just tracks of like, it's on Julia Garner, always keeps her in focus, but the woman is following her, and then she'll like go around a corner, cut, and then the woman comes back in, cuts away, and comes back in. Just really good of like keeping your central character in focus, but you see this impending threat in the background, and it's just like, oh, she's not there on this turn. Oh, she's not there on this turn, and then she's finally there. Just like really like experienced director, even though this is his second movie. Like just little things like that stuck out to me. So this one for me, I really, really did like. I think that the premise is great. I think the payoff is good, not great for me personally. I think it works well for the movie. It just wasn't. It didn't leave me the same way that I left Us, which I think is a movie you and I both like more than most critics and most other people. Where, like I said, that trailer for the movie, I was like, oh, this looks great. And then the ending, like the ending shot of that movie, I'm just like, oh, that's amazing. Like, that's fucking great. That's exactly what I wanted. This movie, I didn't quite get that. I was like, that's a fine resolution in this story. I like it. I enjoy this movie. Directed well. Performances are great across the board. Great moments of tension. Just some of the character perspectives I could have had maybe blended in with other ones. And then some of the tone in the third act, I would have liked a little bit more horror leaning instead of comedy leaning.
Yeah, I love that you're bringing up Us. One, because we both love that movie so much, and I feel like we're, not that it's a hot take, but I think we like that movie a lot more than most people, at least within the film pundit realm, or film reviewer realm. But that scene specifically with Julia Garner, I think that's a great scene to bring up, and also how that scene subverts expectations, because you think it's something related to the threat of what happened to these kids, and it's like something completely entirely different due to like brought on by this character. So I'm like, oh, like this movie does a good job of like living within itself. And there this focal point mystery of where these kids are is the pressing matter, but life happens outside of that as well, and Julia Garner has other either issues that she's dealing with or faults of her own. So I'm like, I think it's handled very well. I think that the one true negative. So I gave this movie an A+. My one true negative, which isn't that big, but this movie opens with narration, works. Typically when you get a movie with narration, I'm like, all right, how long are you going to run? Yeah. How much are you trying to explain to me? But I think, and it pairs well with the marketing. The marketing, we really have seen the first 20 minutes of this movie for a large part of it. We don't get a lot of the mystery in the trailers. We don't get a lot of the answer to the mystery in the trailers. But the narration gets us through the brunt of the premise of what's going on and how we got to this point. The shot, or when they start cutting between the kids leaving the houses and running, I wish that and this is a nitpick, so why it's an A+ and not an A or an A-. This is a nitpick. I wish there was no music to that.
Yes, I 100% agree.
Because I don't know, I don't remember the song. And not that the song was like horribly upbeat. It was a retro song. It was a little bit more old school, like kind of rock.
It was "Beware of Darkness" by George Harrison, a Beatle. Obviously, yeah. I love this song, and I think it's fine. But I 100% agree that I wish it was silent.
Do that in silence.
Yep.
That's how you even talking about it now. I'm getting goosebumps on my neck. Like
or use the score from like the narration.
Yeah.
There's a score over that, which is really good, really creepy.
Yeah.
Like use that over it instead.
Then we do get a couple of revisiting shots of kids running out of their houses, running to the woods or wherever they're going to, and we get some of them later on throughout the film where they're silent. And I'm like, I wish we got that in the explanation to this. Because getting that song, I'm like, it's not that it distracts, it changes the tone of it.
Yep.
I feel like it makes it almost makes it more upbeat. Not that it's an upbeat song, but I feel like if you leave it silent, 10 times more terrifying.
Yep.
To just see kids at 2:17 get up, move to their door, and run out into the woods where no one knows where they're at, which is what this premise promised. And I'm like, that is the only, and it is kind of a nitpick, but I'm like, that is the only thing I wish that was entirely done differently. Because everything else, what came with this story, what came with the mystery, the resolution, it worked for me. The ending and how it is a little bit more comedic leaning, but it overall still worked for me because it's a wild ride and the performances are great. Like, I don't have really any complaint about this movie. It's literally just the inclusion of that song. I'm like, cut it, perfect, love it. Again, I love that you brought up Us. I feel like now I want to watch Us and Longlegs and Weapons in one sitting, just because there are a lot of similarities to Longlegs, especially with Amy Madigan's performance. It felt very Nicolas Cage in Longlegs.
Yeah.
Of this very just demonic or culty, witchy persona of this person that's aging and they're just whacked out. And I really enjoyed this movie. It lived up to expectations for me. And I'm happy that I figured after I posted my review, I'm like, I wonder how Corey felt about it. Because that's usually like, I saw it with my wife, and she doesn't like movies about people doing bad things to anyone, especially kids. So this movie was a hard sit-through for her. She was really stressed out. And then she was like, why do you only take me to the sad movies? Why don't we see Freakier Friday? And I'm like, because this movie meant more to me. Sorry that I brought you to this, but thanks for coming with me. But the moment I get out of theaters, and if I don't see a movie with you, I'm like, I wonder how he thought. And I always try and get into your head. And I was like, I think he liked it. But I don't know how much. So to hear that you're still, while you have some kind of more issues than I do, you're still on like the same side of the spectrum as me. I'm happy that you had a good time with it too. I think if you're a fan of horror, if you're a fan of thrillers, while I think this is more of a thriller than a horror film, go out and see this. I think, like, I don't see how you leave this movie unentertained, at least. Like, you're going to get a good time. Whether you're fully satisfied or get everything you want out of it, that's up in the air. But I think that this movie is so singular in its vision and how it perpetrates its premise and explores this community of Maybrook that it's just something so enjoyable. And it felt like Stephen King to me at times. So I was like, I love this. Go see it. It's worth your time. I think it's one of the better movies of 2025. For me, it's my number 2. To know that it's in your top 10, I'm not surprised by. So I'm like, it's a winner. And I'm happy that it's already starting to do pretty good in terms of like its budget, in terms of its genre. It's making good money. So I'm like, please go see it. It's worth your time. And the theater I saw it in was packed. And I had a weird theater going experience I'm not going to dive into because we've already talked so much about this movie. But go see it. Maybe don't bring your kids to it. But go see it.
Yeah, I think there's just little changes here and there. If it was made the movie, it would have been maybe that A+ for me. I think I'd give it like A-, A.
Okay.
Probably just sitting on it, maybe an A right now. But I would recommend tempering your expectations a little bit. I think because just the reaction to it has been like, this is one of the best things ever. It's
Yeah.
like, settle that down a bit if you're going into it. Like, just kind of be like, all right, I'm excited for this, but don't expect one of the best horror movies that you've ever seen. I would kind of recommend that.
Yeah, I feel like we get that with comedies and horror films. It's always like any kind of well-received horror movie, it's the scariest movie you've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
Or if it's a well-received comedy movie, it's the funniest movie I've ever seen. It's like, well, no, like not every movie has to beat that or hit that bar for it to be great. And this movie, again, it wasn't the scariest thing I've ever seen, but it delivered what its premise set out to give. And I had a 100% satisfying, like, enjoyable time, and I saw some wild shit that I could never have predicted. So I think it's a win. Like, go see it. It's so worth it.
Absolutely. One of the most exciting movies of the year for sure. Another horror movie that I saw that you reviewed last week, which is Together, directed by Michael Shanks, starring married couple Dave Franco and Alison Brie. You kind of touched on a lot of the main plot points, but essentially Dave Franco and Alison Brie are married in the movie as well, and they move out to the country for Alison Brie's job. She's a teacher, and some weird things start to happen when they discover a cave that is maybe weird and culty. Again, getting back to culty stuff, mystical, magical, whatever. Kind of want to get, like, again, kind of a little spoilerish. It's been out a couple weeks now, so just a warning. I really like this movie. This is my number 10 movie of the year.
Okay.
I don't know. This movie, I didn't expect the depth that it had. I was expecting like a cool body horror movie with some good performances, and I think that's kind of how you felt mostly. That it's like you enjoyed it, you had a good time, and that's kind of what I went in expecting. I got a lot out of this movie that I really, really loved. And the main core of this movie is about relationship, about the bond between two people and the positives and negatives
the give
of
and
that.
take, yeah.
Yep. And there's a line in this movie before they leave out to the country. They're having this party, kind of hang out with their friends, and there's kind of a discussion about Dave Franco and his buddies. They're like, oh, like, do you actually want to move out there, or is it just for her? Like, are you doing it for her or for you? And one of his friends had a line that I just had to write down because I really loved it. He said, when I die, I don't want to see somebody else's life flash before my eyes. That's an incredible line that's so simple but so profound in the same way. And I think that speaks to the theme of this movie of, like, codependency within a relationship. And there's a discussion with Alison Brie and Damon Harriman in this movie, who's great. And
fantastic.
We both know him from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood as Charlie Manson in his very small role, but very memorable. He was also in The Bike Riders too, which is really good.
Yes, he was. Holy shit. I always think he looks like Rick. Who, no one knows. Rick, I think he reminds me of Rick, so I love him. Yeah,
he's just a great actor, great kind of just role player in the movie. But they just have this conversation about relationship and the balance between, like, complacency and harmony within a relationship, and, like, whether you're with somebody and you're doing it because it's just comfortable and you're like, I don't want to divert away from this because I have somebody, and, like, a true harmony between two people that are willing to both be independent people for themselves but also come together and have a great harmony, instead of two people that are sacrificing so much of themselves to be together because they should be together. And I think that speaks to that kind of that line I mentioned where people are like, do you actually want to do this? Is it because your wife wants to do this, or your girlfriend wants to do this? And I just, like, that theme throughout the movie really worked for me. And I don't know, I didn't expect that throughout the movie. And it kind of ties into kind of some of the, like, mythology. They get into, like, the story of Plato creating humans, of how they were, like, 2 heads, 4 arms, 4 legs, like, they were all combined, and then he split them apart. And that gets into the, spoiler alert, kind of like culty a combination of people into one being, and this underground cave where you see these, like, drawings and murals of these, like, creatures, humans that were combined together. And you get that final shot in the movie, which I really like the ending of this movie a lot.
One of my favorite endings of the year. It's awesome.
Yeah, and it just kind of lets you sit with it, and you're just like, all right, we don't need to see, like, what happens next, really. No. It's just like,
you can play it out in your head. This was the reveal. Like,
and it's like frustrating when you're watching the movie almost, because you're like, oh, like, don't do it, but I think it speaks to the dangers of like what a relationship can be, of like the dangers of trying so hard to please somebody else that you're sacrificing so much of yourself. And instead of just being your own person and realizing that you're gonna have differences, you're gonna have things that are separate about each of you. You don't always need to be together in a literal and physical, sense in this movie. But you can be both people and still be in harmony. So really, I don't know. Like, I didn't expect to have that much to break down with this movie when I saw it, but that really, really worked for me. And I think Dave Franco and Alison Brie are really good. They feel like a married couple. Obviously they are, like in real life. And I think the thing that works so well about their performance is that good chemistry in a movie sometimes boils down to like the romantic moments, and people say like, oh, they had such good chemistry. But good chemistry for me is in like the little arguments and in the actual conversations people have, of like going on a hike and getting lost and being like, where are we? And the guy's trying to figure it out. He's like, I don't know, that's north. And Alison Brie's like, how does that help us? And he's like, I don't know. He's just trying to figure it out. That's what I knew. That's all I know. That's what I have right now. So just like those moments, I think, speaks to the great chemistry that they had in the movie, of not only just the romantic, fun moments, but the little moments as well. So really, really enjoyed this one. I would highly recommend this one too. It has some good body horror elements, and I think it goes far enough. And I wasn't left wanting more as far as the body horror.
Yeah,
I was good with it being this kind of relationship drama with a few still really like pretty like moments of like, damn, like that's disgusting to look at. Really dug this one. I can't wait to see what Michael Shanks does next. 100%. And I think it's a standout neon horror movie this year. They're always putting out cool stuff. So really, really enjoyed it. It is, I think, my number 10 of the year so far.
Yeah, it's in my teens. It's a movie that's kind of grown on me more since I've seen it. And Damon Herman, he is fantastic. He's kind of a scene stealer in this movie, and I love. And this comes with weapons, and this comes with together the ability for the director to reserve kind of a lot of the information. Like, we get a lot in both movies, but it's never like placated to us. We don't get every single beat for beat how things happen, what it means, what is the full process of this. We don't get the full explanation, and I love that. And within Together, we get kind of like what you brought up, that initial argument or that initial conversation of Plato and like how humans are really meant to look. And I like that is basically the way that this is the one thing that they use to describe the premise of this movie, what's going on. I think that this movie was almost handcuffed by being a horror film. You get some jump scares and some development with Dave Franco, what he's been subjected to in his earlier in his life, and I'm like, this almost feels like unnecessary at this point to the rest of the story. Like, right now, this is a story between you and your wife, and or they're not married, you and your girlfriend, I think, at this time. And I do like the critiques of kind of companionship and the sacrifices someone might make, and is that sacrifice like an ultimate sacrifice, or is that something that, you give that up for your partner and whatnot? So it has a lot of good commentary on kind of relationships. I do think that I'm kind of saddened. The body horror in the film is basically hinted at and almost shown in the trailers at times. The quantity of body horror in this film is just like an extended trailer. We just like a couple seconds more of each shot that's included within the trailer. I'm like, okay. And then that climactic moment, which isn't in the trailer for obvious reasons, but it's climactic, and then the effects of it kind of took me out of it a little bit, but also I love the idea of it. So it's like, it's not a complete negative, because I still like what's going on. And I love the ending.
Yeah.
When that happened, the air of the theater I was in, the movie, it shows that big reveal, movie ends. People in my theater audibly, what? And I was like, don't, just shut up. Because I was sitting with this and it was working so well. And now you laughing at it is making me be like, should I laugh at it? I love the ending. And I think it works so well. And you don't need what happens next. It's complete in and of itself. I'm happy that you saw it, and I'm happy you liked it as much as you did. But it's such a wild movie. It's, again, another movie that's, it belongs somewhat to the horror genre, but I don't know if I'd call it a horror movie. There's like horror iconography, and like there's a moment where Alison Brie is kind of floating and levitating and smashing her head against an office door, and you're like, what the fuck's going on?
Also, some good like dream type sequences in here too. That was probably the scariest thing for me, is like just a visual from Dave Franco's past, where he's talking about his parents and something that happened there, and like just a vision that he keeps having that is really freaky to me, and is another kind of like thing seared in my head of just somebody like sitting up in bed, and that's just terrifying to me. So again, just like his relationship with his parents and how they ended up to his relationship now. So yeah, I don't know, this movie's really cool. I really liked it. Go support both Together and Weapons, two cool, very interesting, unique horror, thriller, drama type movies.
Yeah. While we had those awesome kind of outskirts in terms of genre filmmaking that are out in theaters right now, there's a big release this past week, which I'm just going to not bury the lead. I didn't see it. Corey didn't see it. Freakier Friday. Not that we missed the boat. I'm sure I'm going to see it soon. I'm actually kind of excited to see it. But in preparation for Freakier Friday, I went back and watched the 2003 Freaky Friday with my wife. The film is directed by Mark Waters, who, amongst other things he has directed, the most important thing, which made me think of, like, I remember watching Mr. Popper's Penguins in 6th grade health class for some reason with Mrs. Horde at Buffalo Middle School.
Nice.
So I was like, I'm putting that in. But obviously this movie stars Jamie Lee Curtis and Lindsay Lohan. You also got Mark Harmon. And then amongst other people and returning cast for this newer iteration that we've getting this year. But is it Stefan or Stephen Tobolowsky?
Stephen
Tobolowsky.
So, yeah.
Do you know who that is?
Yeah.
He is the villain in the live-action Garfield movies. Or the first one. I love that man so much. He pops up in everything, and he's just fantastic. He's an awesome character actor, so I just want to mention him. Obviously, it's a movie about a daughter who's in her teenage years switching kind of bodies with her mom, who is a therapist, and always psychoanalyzing her daughter and all this stuff, and you get the gags with it. This is a movie I've seen a lot growing up. I really enjoy. This is the first time I've seen it in maybe like 5 years, and it's so much comfort that you just immediately snap back into it, at least for me, because I do have that nostalgia with it. But it's just so of its time, early 2000s Disney, and you get pretty good humor, pretty good like kind of commentary on what it means to be a mom and a daughter, and how you need to let people fail to become who they are, and just stuff like that. And even when you're a supposedly successful woman and you have outside looking in things going right for you, you still have your issues. So I love this movie. It was great watching with my wife. It was a movie that she usually harps on me for always picking depressing horror films or things that I always want to watch, and she's like, can we watch Freaky Friday? I'm like, yeah, sounds great. And we watched that, and she's like, God, I love this movie. I'm like, okay, sorry, we should probably intermix kind of your takes or your viewing preferences with mine a little bit more. But Freaky Friday is great. I'm still really excited for Freakier Friday. Have you seen the 2003 Freaky Friday?
I have not. I think maybe I mentioned it last week. But yeah, I obviously I know the concept. I've seen a lot of like the big scenes and stuff like that. It's kind of hard not to, from just growing up with the idea of the movie. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know that I'll see Freakier Friday in theaters. Possibly if I have some free time this week. But I will watch it at some point, watch both the original and this one, because I'm excited to just kind of watch it all the way through and see the context for a lot of these scenes.
Allie and I are talking about waiting a couple of weeks, which I'm not the biggest fan of, like with newer releases, giving that much time to go see it, because I always just want to go rush out and see the new releases. But with Freakier Friday, I'm like, oh yeah, I love the original. It's nostalgic to me. It's not the most important movie to my life, but my mother-in-law, her birthday's coming up later this month, so we'll likely try and take her to it, and I think that could be really fun. So I'm happily gonna wait to see this Freakier Friday, probably for a couple more weeks. So we likely, unless you end up seeing it this week or before me, we probably won't talk about Freakier Friday on the podcast really up until that point. But from what I've heard, it's well received and pretty good, so I'm excited about it whenever I do get around to it. But I think I'll try and catch it in theaters.
Yeah, glad that it's getting a theatrical release and not just Disney.
Honestly, anything that comes out theatrically, I'm like, boom, you could be the biggest heap of like dog shit. As long as you're out in theaters, I don't even care. Thank you.
Feels like something that could have been put on Disney Plus for sure. So I'm glad it's getting in theaters. This week, I mentioned it last week, I've been doing my Alphabet rewatch throughout this year. I kind of abandoned it for a while just because busy summertime.
Franchise summer?
Yeah, franchise summer was happening. But this week was O and P I actually did. So I'll talk about O first. I watched Once Upon a Time in the West, which came out in 1968 and directed by Sergio Leone. This was his follow-up to the Man with No Name trilogy, which I absolutely love. I think that is such a Fistful of Dollars for a Few Dollars More and The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly is just like one of the best trilogies of all time, I would say, and I think gets better with every movie. I really, really enjoy all three, but I think he just kept finding his footing with each one. And this one is another Western, and it's about a mysterious stranger with a harmonica, played by Charles Bronson, who joins forces with a desperado, played by Jason Robards, and they're trying to protect a beautiful widow from a ruthless assassin, played by Henry Fonda, working for the railroad. It has all the Western stuff in there. Claudia Cardinale plays the widow in the movie. She's great. I don't know that I've seen her in a ton of other things, but very, very good in this movie. And it really does just have that classic Western tone of like, yeah, we're trying to build land near this upcoming railroad, and we're drinking in the saloon, and we're having shootouts, and we're riding on horseback, and it's great, and it's all the Western things that you love, and a classic. And what I love about this movie is that it's like 2 hours and 45 minutes long, so a pretty lengthy movie. I understand that not a lot of people probably want to sit down and watch it, but it is worth your time because Sergio Leone is one of the most visually just interesting directors. Mm-hmm. Every shot in this movie, like the opening maybe like 8 to 10 minutes, is just these guys waiting at a train station. And it's just them with like, there's a fly just flying around this guy, and he's just waiting. Another guy's waiting, and there's just water dripping on his hat. Another guy's just waiting, and you just hear the creaky kind of windmill going. He just lets you sit in the moment for so long, and it's so many, like, you could cut that down to like a 2-minute scene, but he just lets it kind of sit in this Western environment at this like depot waiting for a train. And that extends through the rest of the movie, where you just get all these incredible visuals filmed on location. I think I've said before, like, my two favorite decades of movies are the 60s and 70s. Oh, yeah. Like, that is 100% just like, that's where filmmaking was like, we can do a little bit more. We're still filming on location. We're doing all this. Obviously, CGI wasn't a thing, so we couldn't rely on that. You had to do it practically with everything. And I love this movie. It's one of my favorite Westerns now. I am surprised I'd never seen it before, but I like the performances are all great. There's depth to each character. There's faults, and there's, even Henry Fonda, kind of the villain of the movie, who up until that point had been kind of the hero character, the good guy, the 12 Angry Men of being like we need to work together to do this.
Come on, boys.
Yeah. And so you see that Charles Bronson, he's the harmonica man, and his little theme that he has on the harmonica is a recurring like motif in the movie, and it's really catchy. It's just like a great musical theme. And it's just a great kind of exploration of like the expansion of this world and what everyone's willing to do to get to that point, and how much they're willing to sacrifice for that. So really dug this movie. I think it's maybe like top 5 or 6 Westerns. I watched Tombstone earlier this year, so both of those movies are like 2 of my favorite Westerns now. And I loved seeing it, and it's just, it gives you, like I said, everything you want in a Western.
Yeah, no, it's a very enjoyable film, and I feel like when you go back to revisit, or visit for the first time even, a lot of classics within like cinema history, Once Upon a Time in the West is one of those movies that always pops up amongst like the list of top Westerns, and it's like, okay, well, like, how is it going to play in today, in terms of like today, and how am I going to feel with watching this movie, knowing what I know, and being exposed to the types of movies I can go and see regularly? It plays like a Western, but it's so, again, it's Sergio Leone. It's so well thought out. Whether it's that train depot, whether it's just Charles Bronson and his harmonic, like, there are iconic moments, but they're iconic for a reason, not in just like, oh, you'll remember this. They're thought out, and there's character behind everything. And Henry Fonda is amazing in this movie. Claudia Cardinale, she's Italian, so I'm guessing that's how you pronounce it. Very, just a stunning woman. She's great in this movie. I've only, I think, ever seen her in, aside from this movie, 8½, which I watched for the first time earlier this year, which is the Federico Fellini I think 1960s movie. But she's in that movie playing a woman named Claudia, and she's fantastic in that. So it's also fun revisiting these older films and being exposed to actors, actresses that you aren't really like familiar with, and being able to like dive into their filmography, what they've worked on. And a lot of times it feels like when I dive into someone that is in a movie I love, I find another movie that they were in that I love. So it's just, it always like branches out. When it's a classic movie, it's a classic for a reason, and it's not that it's dated or it's aged out. I think it's a classic because you can go back to it at any time period and still get enjoyment out of. And I think that this still stands like the test of time. It is one of still the best westerns ever made. It's still wildly watchable, and the score, the action, the story. While it is a western sometimes can be a little bit slower moving. It's always worth it within this film. Anything Sergio Leone has done, you can go watch and have a great time with, especially the No Name trilogy, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, which I would probably put Once Upon a Time in the West on that same caliber as The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Awesome Western. I'm happy that you got to see it now, finally, for the first time. It's an amazing watch, and it's just so, I think, crucial to like film history. It's
Absolutely.
something that always stands out, and it's always brought up. So to check something like that out, it's like saying you haven't watched Gone with the Wind, and everyone's like, you haven't watched Gone with the Wind, which I haven't. I don't know if I ever will. But it's just a hole in your filmography that gets to be filled. So it's an awesome Western movie.
Yeah. Much like Gone with the Wind, that was part of my rewatch as well. So this is kind of why I've been doing it this year, of just being like, there's so many classics, I've wanted to check them off my list. I'm like, I don't know, like, just which ones to watch. I can't decide. It's just, there's so many to see. This has been a nice way to categorize it a bit.
Yeah.
And this week I decided also to just jump into the letter P as well. And I watched Public Enemies from 2009, directed by Michael Mann. He's done a lot of great things. Thief is a movie I watched within the last couple of years. Is great.
Top 15.
The Last of the Mohicans, I grew up watching that movie all the time. I absolutely love it. Heat is great. And then
have you seen Black Hat?
I have not seen Black Hat.
That's one that when it came out, I heard just dog shit. Just not good. And now I've heard like a sudden like resurgence of people being like defending the movie, and I'm like, maybe I should check this one out.
Yeah.
But I heard like almost nothing but negative things for the first like 2 years of when that movie originally released.
Yeah, it's one of his like few big movies that I haven't seen. But yeah, definitely want to watch that one for sure. Ferrari from a couple years ago was actually not too bad. It was pretty good. This movie stars pretty much everybody. It's insane. It takes place in the 1930s during the Great Depression, and it's about this group of bank robbers, John Dillinger being the big one, the historical, based on a true story, obviously. Johnny Depp plays John Dillinger, and Christian Bale plays an agent at the FBI trying to take him down, kind of the early days of the FBI. You see J. Edgar Hoover in this movie, played by Billy Crudup, who is great. I love seeing him pop up and stuff. And I really love movies based on true stories. I always find them more interesting than maybe other kind of mediocre movies, just because I like to learn about new things. And these movies often prompt me to look into the real life things of how it all went down, the timeline of stuff. Obviously, things are changed from movies, so I like just doing research in history. I love that myself. So this was a fun one because I love gangsters, mobsters, that sort of thing, that world, that seedy underworld of like Chicago, a lot of this takes place in. Yeah. And I liked most of this movie. I thought it was pretty good. I feel like it was more of just a kind of surface level retelling of these events. It hit all of the kind of main points you would expect to see in like the rise and fall of John Dillinger, this very famous bank robber, and you have a lot of great performances in here too, like across the board they're really good. Jason Clarke is really good in this movie. Stephen Graham plays Babyface Nelson, great real life person, just great name. And Giovanni Ribisi is in there, Stephen Lang, you got Stephen Dorff, John Ortiz, like just so many great people in there. But it never really like dug into any of the characters enough. Even though this movie's like 2 hours and 20 minutes, it was kind of a little slow at times, of kind of like waiting for it to get a little bit deeper, and it was just more of like, all right, here's this happened, this happened, this happened, this happened. You go along. It's good. I enjoyed it. Like I said, I like mob gangster stuff, so it was ultimately a little bit more enjoyable for me. I wouldn't say it's like a classic by any means, but a movie from a big director that I'd always wanted to see in a genre that I really like. And if anything, I took away just like learning more about the real life, John Dillinger and a lot of these other bank robbers in the day and how they kind of connected with like Chicago and the Midwest. There was also some stuff I was reading in like St. Paul that it took place like in Minnesota where we live, which was cool to see that like they were staying at hotels and the FBI raided it while like in the 30s or whatever. So kind of cool. Glad I've checked it out, but not a huge recommendation for me.
Yeah, I think I saw this movie for the first time in the same like time frame of when I watched Scarface and like Goodfellas and Casino, and I was going through like all the gangster mob films, and then I was like, oh, Michael Mann made Public Enemies with a cast that's stacked, and I was like, why not? And I remember thinking like the movie is pretty slow at times. I remember it being kind of a slog. But it's shot really well and it has a great cast. So I was like, overall, I think I like the movie. I've only ever seen it, I think, 2 times. And especially on a rewatch, I really felt, I'm like, whoa, this movie moves so slow. And you don't learn a whole lot about these characters beyond surface level, what they did and what they were able to achieve, and them finding ways to skirt the feds and kind of hide. And so I was just like, it's fine. And it's a Michael Mann movie, so it looks great. It's somewhat well directed. The pacing is just kind of atrocious in this movie, at least from what I remember. But it's I think a worthy watch, and it definitely fits within the Michael Mann style, at least of the early 2000s, of like the look of Collateral and Miami Vice. Just the way those films are shot. Public Enemies feels like a Michael Mann movie. I haven't seen Black Hat. That's probably the one that I'm feeling the most like urge to go see. Michael Mann's been in the news a little bit this past week with talks of Heat 2 and having that at Warner Brothers, and Leonardo DiCaprio is interested and maybe attached, and they're also looking for like a $275 million budget. Oh, yeah. And they're like, what's a fucking cop movie? Cool. Like, guys, chill out. We're not going to give Heat 2 movie from, or a sequel 30 years, 40 years almost in the making. It's not going to happen. But it's just, Michael Mann, he is proven to be one of my favorite directors, and I love Thief and Heat, obviously. But yeah, this movie just never like had a lasting impression. But I'm happy that you got to see it just because it's a Michael Mann movie. Michael Mann makes something worth seeing, even if his worst works are some of the best works for other directors. Yeah. So like it's hard to complain about sometimes. I am not doing an Alphabet rewatch, an Alphabet watch, but I am doing almost like an October or Halloween season in August. We're in the dog days of summer, and we're kind of few and far between in terms of like big summer releases. So me and my wife at least have been entering into some of the movies in terms of like any sort of witchery, anything that makes us feel like it's fall, like the leaves are falling, because that's our favorite time of year. That's the best time of year, at least subjectively. But I sat down, and a movie that's kind of been a glaring hole in my Halloween or like horror film filmography was The Witches from 1990, which there is a 2020-ish remake. I don't 100% know Anne Hathaway of this movie. But this original 1990 film was directed by Nicholas Roeg, who is also, which I didn't know until earlier today, is the director of one of the best Donald Sutherland movies, Don't Look Now, from the 1970s, I think 1973. It's a fantastic film. It's on Criterion Collection, so if you haven't seen it, check that out. But The Witches, I always knew it for Anjelica Huston. She is kind of the lead witch, the high witch in this film, and the creature effects are always something I've been on display and something I've always heard about, so I got to see that within this film. It is like a charming little kid's tale. It's based on a story by Roald Dahl. It's a young boy who stumbles into this convention of witches at this hotel, and he figures out that he's like, I need to stop them. They're going to make all children mice so that they're not a threat, because witches hate children. And then he becomes a mouse. And he's like, how can I thwart their plans while also being a fucking mouse? And some of the puppetry is just so charming and cute. And this movie didn't leave like a massive impression on me. I feel like I'm seeing this too late in my life to really have like a lot of nostalgia with it. But overall, I'm like, the creature effects of the witches and them morphing from the beautiful Angelica Houston into this just long-nosed, spiky-looking Squidward fucking amalgamation of horror. I was like, whoa, you're slimy and you have a sharp nose, and earlier you were really attractive and now I'm very, very unsettled. The puppetry is great, the effects are great, all of them being practical. And some of the work done with like puppetry in terms of the main character becoming a mouse, and how do you do that in the 90s? And it works really well. So it's a movie that if I saw it when I was younger, it would have been, I feel like, really nostalgic to me. I'm happy I saw it now just because I really appreciate practical effects and being able to see that it's just like a dissertation on how important and how effective practical effects can be. Obviously it's the 90s, so this is like logistically their only option in terms of pulling off a lot of the stuff that we see on screen, but it also holds up so well. And the parts that look dated are still coated in like candy coated charm, so it's like it works. It's a movie that I didn't like love, but it was charming. It's a good kind of like cautionary tale and feels like a good like if I had a child that I was like trying to get into liking horror films, this would maybe be one of the ones where I'm like, all right, you're 8 years old, you're starting to kind of like a little bit more spooky movies. Maybe I'll show you The Witches and kind of scare you and hopefully give you a good time within this genre to really develop into something that's a horror fan. So it was a good watch. My wife really liked it. I think she had seen it before I hadn't, and I overall it was a good watch. Again, it doesn't have the biggest impact, but it is a great kind of time capsule of 1990s practical effects and scares. So I really liked it.
Sure, yeah. I remember like not hearing much about the movie, and then that 2020 movie came out, and I kind of looked into it a bit. Yeah. I haven't seen either one. But definitely curious, much like, last week you talked about a few movies that I'm like, oh, this could be good, like October Halloween type movies for sure. Yeah,
we're getting a lot of those out of a lot of the ones that I've always wanted to see that come October, we're going to watch like the heavy hitters of like Halloween Town, John Carpenter's Halloween, 2018 Halloween even, and like the ones that we love, but this build-up time is for me to check off ones from the list that I haven't seen. So
The Bye Bye Man, that's another classic.
I've seen The Bye Bye Man maybe 6 times. I don't think I've watched that movie ever sober. Like, I've always been heavily inebriated, and it's a great watch when you're drunk as
Truth
fuck.
or Dare, another
Truth
one.
or Dare has some really good humor. I don't think I talked about it when I watched it, but earlier this year I watched Tarot. This is a tangent, and we're not going to spend too much time on it. Movie's ass! Ooh, it is like early 2000s dog shit. Like it's something special and fun to watch. As like I lived through a time when all horror movies were like this for a bit, and now to get one of these in like 2024 or 3 or whenever that movie fucking came out, it's so bad. But yeah. Anyways, check that movie out and have a good time. Make sure you just have a lot of liquor near you.
Absolutely. You know what? Never a bad time to have some liquor. Well, there could
depending
be bad
on
times,
your past, yeah,
or if you're in a car or not, I guess. But like, whatever. It's
where are my keys?
It's it's fun. No, it's not fun. It's not fun. We're gonna move on to the new
recommended.
We're gonna move on to the new releases coming out this week, because actually we have quite a few things coming out this week. If you're looking for something new to watch, for one night only on Wednesday, August 13th, Red Sonja is coming to theaters. There was the 1985 movie with Bridget Nielsen and Arnold Schwarzenegger, and it's based on a Marvel Comics character, which I feel like not a lot of people really know. It's not one of the more common known ones. I think it was in like Conan the Barbarian.
Yeah,
I think she showed up.
It's like the subsidiary of that character.
Yeah,
or it felt like an offshoot of the time at least.
Which I haven't seen that 85 movie. Maybe someday I'll watch it, and maybe someday I'll watch this movie. I don't know. Probably not this week, but Matilda Lutz is as the title character, and they're described as a she-devil with a sword. So, sure. I don't know. I feel like I've heard not great things about this movie, but if you're a big fan of the character or just want to be the person that's completing your Marvel Comics, like I need to see everything, one night only on August 13th, and then it's coming out on Netflix on August 28th.
Yeah, I have heard fucking dick about this. I didn't even know that this was a thing. I thought when I saw it on the show notes that it was just a re-release of the one from like the 80s or whatever, and I was like, oh, okay, whatever. I have no expectations or anticipation for this, so I don't know if I'm going to sit down and watch this. Probably not in theaters, because I think the big release of this week is a movie that you and I are like relatively excited for, just based on how we feel about the original, but that is Nobody 2. It's coming from director I'm going to mispronounce this, and I'm sorry, but Timo DeJonto. And it's starring Bob Odenkirk, Connie Nielsen, Christopher Lloyd, a lot of the returning cast from the first one, and it's just putting us in the throes of this character, again, played by Bob Odenkirk, of this kind of assassin, Hutch Mansell. But now he's on a family vacation, and I feel like the trailers that I've seen, I maybe have seen 3 different trailers, but they're all roughly the exact fucking same. And the way I'm talking about it already sounds like I'm not excited for this movie. I actually really enjoyed the first one. It feels almost John Wick-esque, almost like a spin-off of the John Wick universe. But now we have Bob Odenkirk, who is one of the best funny men, whether it's in what I have seen of Better Call Saul, because I never finished that show, but the first 2 seasons I really loved. And obviously his involvement in The Office. I love Bob Odenkirk. Anything he pops up in. I think he was in a couple of throwaway episodes of The Office. I feel like he popped up in. But he's a great comedic actor, and to see him in Nobody, that first movie, which it came out, I think, near COVID. Like, it was one of those
21, I think.
Yeah, it was one of those first movies where it's like theaters are kind of open again, so you can go back and see it. And I remember seeing Nobody in theaters. I was like, I really pleasantly surprised by it. This is of this upcoming week. Again, August is a little bit of a slower month for the summer, but this is maybe the big release of the week, and I'm excited for it. I'm not rushing out to go see it. If I have time available this week, I'll probably go and see it Thursday or Friday night. But yeah, Nobody 2 coming out to theaters this week, and yeah, it's another. I'm hoping if it's not as good as the first, that's fine by me. Just be a fun time, which the trailers, I feel like, have promised that thus far.
Yeah, I was pretty surprised by that first one. I feel like I remember seeing this and Godzilla vs. Kong as kind of like 2 movies coming back to theaters. Yeah. I think it was 2021, and just being like, oh, I actually enjoyed this movie quite a bit. It has that kind of John Wick action style. Like the filming of it is pretty good.
Yeah, the action is good.
Ilya Naishuller, I think, is the director of that first movie. And I think he did a pretty good job with it. So I'm excited to see this one. I'll definitely be seeing that this week. One that I'm very excited for is Highest to Lowest, which is the new Spike Lee joint. And it's a remake of Akira Kurosawa's 1963 movie High and Low, which I have not seen, but I'm actually going to watch this week because always a great excuse to watch a Akira Kurosawa movie. He put out a lot of things, and a lot of them were very, very good. And interesting that Spike Lee has kind of taken on a different telling of the story with Denzel Washington. Jeffrey Wright is in this movie. A$AP Rocky. Sure. Yeah. Okay, he's cool. He was found not guilty of all of his stuff, so that's cool. That's fine. He's with Rihanna. That's cool.
What was he guilty of? What was he potentially guilty of?
There was the thing where he fired the shots and one of them hit somebody's legs or whatever and they got injured.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, so there was the whole thing, but A$AP, he's back.
Apparently.
But yeah, so the kind of synopsis of the movie is when a Titan music mogul is targeted with a ransom plot, he is jammed up in a life or death moral dilemma. I've really enjoyed the trailers for this. A new one came out earlier this week, I think it was, so I've dug it. I mean, Spike Lee is, again, kind of doing something interesting, whether I like it or not. It's interesting to just see what he's putting out there. So it's being put out in limited release this week and then on Apple TV Plus on September 5th. So I'll definitely be checking it out in theaters. I actually have not seen a Spike Lee movie in theaters. I didn't see... Da 5 Bloods was his last movie, but that was on Netflix. Black Klansman I didn't see in theaters, so...
I think that was the probably first and only that I've seen in theaters. But
yeah.
I grew up watching Inside Man a lot.
Oh, yeah.
I really liked that movie, with Denzel Washington and Clive Owen, but I never knew or associated that movie with Spike Lee. And then I feel like once I went to school and learned more about the filmography of Spike Lee, I was like, oh fuck, he made one of my favorite movies that I've grown up watching. I think I saw Black Klansman in theaters, I believe, and then Da 5 Bloods. Some of his more recent works I've been really highly anticipating. This Highest to Lowest, I haven't watched a single trailer. And I all I know is that it is roughly a modern adaptation of High and Low from Akira Kurosawa, so I'm excited for that alone. The last time Spike Lee did a translation of a story that was told better by a director prior to him was Old Boy, and that movie was shite. As a fan of the original
Elizabeth
Old Boy.
Olsen.
But Elizabeth Olsen was in it, and Josh Brolin. It was a good cast. And wasn't Sam Jackson in that movie too? I feel like he was.
Maybe, yeah.
But that movie sucked ass. So I have like reservations, but also anything Spike Lee makes, I'm probably going to see. I think you checked earlier that it is showing in a theater near us before it goes to Apple TV Plus. So I'll probably also try and look to see this one. Hopefully this week. It'd be sweet to see this in theaters. Just because I don't have Apple TV Plus, I had a limited subscription or like a free trial when Severance was out, so I could watch it on that, and then that expired. So now I don't have Apple TV Plus, and I don't feel like I want to get it just to watch this movie. But I am still somewhat excited for this movie. Another movie that is releasing in theaters, it might be a little bit more of a limited release. It's a smaller budget film, but it is Americana, directed by Tony Tost. It's coming from Sydney Sweeney, and also the actor in literally, aside from Pedro Pascal, the actor in fucking every movie ever right now is Paul Walter Hauser, who's in this, as well as Halsey. Again, I know a lot of trailers have come out about this. I've only ever really paid much attention to the posters. The posters have been really good and of their era. For those of you who aren't really in the know on this movie, as I would count myself as one of those, the lives of local outsiders and outcasts violently intertwine when a rare Lakota ghost shirt falls onto the black market in a small South Dakota town. It's a movie that I've only gotten the feel from the posters. Again, I haven't really watched much of the trailers. I've seen them in passing. It's Sydney Sweeney, who, I'm a hot-blooded male. I'll go watch her in anything. But also Paul Walter Hauser, who I'm a big fan of, and fuck, I could have had like 20 minutes more of him in Fantastic Four First Steps. I am intrigued to see Halsey. I don't know if I feel like she has acted before. I just don't know if I've been really exposed to her as an actress. So I'm intrigued by this movie. Again, it's with it being August and we're out of like the hotbed of summer movie season of like Big July, Big June, and Jurassic World, Superman, all that stuff. We're getting a lot of these somewhat smaller releases, movies that aren't necessarily bad. They're just not the big budget blockbuster that you're shelling out for. So I'm interested by a lot of these films that are coming out this week. Which one I end up seeing, I couldn't tell you. I couldn't guarantee anything. So Americana would be one of those on the list, though, that I'd be interested in seeing. So I think I'm the most excited because Sydney Sweeney's in it and because I'm a man.
And coming fresh off of her American Eagle ads that have caused quite
so
the
much
uproar.
Controversy, which we won't get into, but it's just, yeah.
Yeah, Sydney Sweeney's hot, so cool, why not?
Wow.
Fuck it. Yeah, kind of, I don't know, curious about that one for sure. Another little movie that the only reason I put on here, it's called Witchboard.
I've never fucking heard of this.
I saw the trailer before Weapons, and I've heard like a little bit about it, but it's coming from director Chuck Russell, who did A Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors, which I think is one of the better of the Nightmare on Elm Street movies.
100%.
Just a very interesting career. He did The Blob, The Mask with Jim Carrey, Eraser with Arnold Schwarzenegger, and then The Scorpion King. Very just diverse films. It's about a cursed witchboard that is, deception, possession, all this type of horror movie stuff. I put this movie on the list because Madison Eisman is in this movie. I don't know if you know who she is or not, but...
The name sounds familiar, but...
She is, she's been in the 2 newest Jumanji movies. She was also in a movie called Clouds, which is based on a real-life thing that is kind of tied to Minnesota a little bit. And she was in the I Know What You Did Last Summer TV series on Amazon Prime, I think it was. She is probably the most like attractive person I've seen. That I like aside from the
she's one in the Jumanji movies. She's one of the core like 4 teenagers, not in the game.
Yeah.
I know exactly who you're talking about.
And she's in the movie, like I mentioned, Clouds, which I saw her in person at the Mall of America when they were like promoting this movie. I went with a friend, and we saw her there along with the cast and everything. She is just insanely attractive to me. I know that's not like a reason to promote this movie at all, but I think she's in Animal Comes Home. She's
the babysitter.
Yeah, she's the babysitter in that movie, which I think she's really good. So, I don't know, this looks like a generic horror movie, but I put it on there because of that.
It's also an interesting team, like, behind the camera.
Yeah,
especially like, to bring back a director from one of the Nightmare on Elm Street
Chuck
films.
Russell. Yeah, like, he's done a lot of big things. Yeah, so he's done, like, interesting stuff. So I don't know that this movie looks that good, but just, like, interesting pieces there that me personally, I guess, I was invested in.
Apparently, yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know.
Anyways. I mean, I feel like our explanation as into terms of why we would be excited by Americana or Witchboard kind of boil down to the same reason. We're just white guys that are attracted to women. Anyways, of the movies that are coming out, you have kind of a lot to choose from. Again, they're a little bit smaller budget or smaller known films, so whatever you end up seeing, whether it's one that's coming out fresh this week or it's an existing film that's been out from the summer that you're catching up on, please go to the theater and watch it. If you're not going to the theater, and sad to say, maybe the thing I'm most excited for, which I'm only sad to say because it's not in the theater, is Alien Earth, which is coming from showrunner Noah Hawley. The first 2 episodes are to premiere on Tuesday, this upcoming Tuesday, in the next couple of days, Tuesday, August 12th. I've heard nothing but glowing reviews. The trailers have been great. The promo has been fantastic. I am so excited for this. Alien Romulus was such a breath of fresh air in terms of the Alien franchise, and that's coming from someone who's a fan of Prometheus and Alien Covenant. But Alien Romulus was like, this is what I want in an Alien film, and this is bringing me back into that world, while also not like putting a cold shoulder to what was established within Prometheus and Alien Covenant. I can't wait. The trailers look great. Didn't mean to make that rhyme, but I am going to spend some time watching the show. I can't fucking wait. And I think it's in Hulu, right? It's on a Hulu original, so This is, again, I'm a movie person, but the TV show this week that is launching wide, that's the one that is getting my time and my attention over anything.
Yeah, I am very excited for this show. I am planning to re-download or re-subscribe to Hulu so I can watch this and The Bear Season 4 and Predator Killer of Killers. Kind of knock out a big kind of chunk of things that have come out on there. I'm excited for this show. I'll see if I watch the first 2 this week or if I get it in like a couple weeks maybe and then start watching week to week. We'll see. But very excited for some more alien stuff. Xenomorphs on Earth, sure. Yeah. Why not?
Something I never thought I don't need. Like when we got that kind of with Alien versus Predator or Requiem, which is a dog shit movie, but it was on the Sci-Fi Channel a lot, so I watched it a lot as a kid. But not a good movie. But finally, I'm like, all right, I don't need it on Earth, but what they've shown me, I'm sold on. In terms of physical media roundup, what we purchased lately. I talked about this movie last week, and it's a movie from, I think, early 90s. I think it was 93, which was Death Becomes Her, directed by Robert Zemeckis, starring Meryl Streep, Goldie Hawn, Bruce Willis. It is one of my favorite old films that I've discovered for the first time, and I just can't wait to rewatch it. I did order a 4K Blu-ray of it, and it did arrive earlier this week, so I'm pretty sure me and my wife will probably make this a recurring viewing, a mandatory viewing every Halloween season. And I think we'll probably watch it again this year before Halloween even, just because we loved it so much. It was such a infectious, fun time. And I'll probably lend it to you, because I think you'd probably like it. But Death Becomes Her was the one movie I purchased this past week.
Yeah, I would gladly take that. I would love to watch it. This week we have quite a few releases coming out. We have the 2025 live-action remake of How to Train Your Dragon. There is kind of the regular 4K Blu-ray things, but there's a 4K steelbook with like a magnet on the front of it that has like a dragon type thing. It reminds me of the Game of Thrones when they did like the house sigils as like a magnet on the steelbooks that they did, which was really cool. They're kind of doing that again with this movie. I like when they put care into the physical releases for sure. The Accountant 2, I know you love that movie. Up there,
one of the dumbest fucking things I've seen in a film ever. It was the majority of that movie. Wow, yeah. I'm not buying that one.
If you're looking forward to that, that's coming out. Freaky Tales, we mentioned, I think a few weeks back that there was like a cool VHS release of that movie. This week is more like the generic release coming out. And then we have some re-releases coming out on 4K.
Some comedy classics and a horror classic.
We've got The Strangers, which I think is a great movie. I really like it. The 40-Year-Old Virgin, great comedy with Steve Carell. Meet the Parents coming out on 4K. Casper, Poseidon, Straight Outta Compton, World Trade Center. And then in preparation for the new Toxic Avenger movie, we have the 4 previous Toxic Avenger movies from Troma coming out on 4K.
There's 4 of those?
There's 4 of them. I'm probably gonna watch them before.
When does the new one come out? Is that
I think
this
it's like
month?
in a couple weeks.
Okay.
Yeah, not this week obviously, but I think the week after, or in August for sure.
Yeah.
So if you're looking to catch up on them and you want that physical collection, they're coming out. So quite a few releases coming out this week.
Yeah, I might have to partake in at least the first of those Toxic Avengers watches with you if you end up watching through all. When you watch through all of them, I might watch that first one. In terms of movie news this past week, one of the bigger ones, if you're a big DC fan, if you're a Batman fan, was kind of the development of the filming, the pre-production of this movie that has been in, I feel like, pre-production for the past 4 years. We're finally getting word that the filming of the second film will begin in spring of 2026, and still with the plans of releasing in October of 2027. There's been a lot of kind of not hesitation, but just the movies, the script process has gone a little bit longer, and I feel like it's a lot more widely talked about just because it's a big property and a lot of people really like the first Batman film by Matt Reeves, but we finally have that script. Production will be starting soon. There were also rumors that Robin might be in this script, and then James Gunn thankfully came out and was like, 6 people have read this script. Shut the fuck up. No one knows anything. Like, Robin's not in this. And I'm like, thank you. I don't want Robin in this. But filming to begin in spring of 2026. I can't wait. And just the fact that we're finally talking about filming when we were talking and worrying about the script for like 3 years there. It's like, all right, movie's happening. It's going on. So good development here.
Yeah. We've talked about the delays of this movie a lot, but like, I don't know, I was thinking back on like the gap between Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises. That was 4 years. Yeah. So it's like, this is going to be what, 5 years between the first Batman and the second one. So like, I'm cool with it. Glad that it's filming. I'm excited. We had a few trailers come out this week. We had a couple maybe awards type movies coming out, which is exciting. I've been kind of making a list of some of the award stuff people have seen at festivals that I'm like, all right, this is my list of stuff I need to see. One of them was Jay Kelly, which is Noah Baumbach's new movie. You got George Clooney, Adam Sandler in there. Maybe Adam Sandler will get his first Oscar nomination. Who knows? He should have got it for Uncut Gems, but you know what? That's besides the point. Looks pretty interesting. George Clooney plays like an actor named Jay Kelly in the movie, and like not much beyond that. You don't really get, just kind of a drama with him. Another one that I'm very curious about is Rental Family with Brendan Fraser, and he is a guy living in Japan who like starts working for this rental family company where he like will play a role in somebody's life, so like kind of a stand-in father for like this family in Japan. That's great. I love seeing Brendan Fraser back doing stuff. Like, obviously, he won the Oscar for The Whale, which is great, and he's just been more relevant doing things. So maybe this could pop into award season. I don't know. It's exciting to see. And then one that I'm very excited for and curious about is Him, which is produced by Jordan Peele. It's not directed by him. Keep that in mind.
As much as they try to throw that name of Jordan Peele because it's sexy in your face with every piece of marketing that comes out about this fucking movie, but it's not directed by Jordan Peele. He just has his name on it.
As much as people will be like, oh, that new Jordan Peele movie, did you see the trailer?
Every time.
Yeah. Which, like, sort of, but not really.
Not the way you think.
Tyreek Withers, who we talked about in I Know What You Did Last Summer, the 2025 remake.
I didn't finish that movie, but he was the best part of that movie.
Yeah, he was really cool in that movie, and he's playing, like, this college football quarterback who goes to, like, a sort of training camp with Marlon Wayans, and weird shit starts happening. Intense shit starts happening. Very interesting to merge, like, two of my loves of football and movies together, so curious about that. The Paper, which is the spinoff of The Office, which has been talked about a lot. Don't know that I needed this, but one thing I liked in this trailer was seeing Tim Key, who was in The Ballad of Wallace Island. Yep. We've talked about that movie a lot this year.
Perfect cast.
His comedy style, I think, works great for an Office-style show. Domhnall Gleeson I also love, so like he feels good as the head, as kind of like a more established actor to kind of head this group of relatively unknown people in this show. I'm curious about it. I don't. We have Oscar. Oscar shows up in the trailer.
Playing Oscar.
Yeah, so he comes back too. So we'll see if it lives up to it. Maybe it'll take a couple seasons to get into it. Who knows? Yeah. The last big trailer we wanted to talk about is Shelby Oaks. We both love a reviewer named Chris Stuckman, who
brought him up earlier.
Yeah, he's been doing reviews since the early 2010s, and been one of the kind of forces on YouTube of both Mason and I watching movie reviews and just learning how to like talk about movies. I feel like, and he's making a movie, Shelby Oaks. He's been working on it for years. We have been waiting for the movie forever. We finally got a trailer. It's coming out this October. The trailer looks really good. It looks creepy. It looks like there's some really fun elements to it. So I saw this trailer before Together when I saw it this week, and that was just so cool to see. Like a person I've been watching forever and something they've worked so hard on. Mm-hmm. Seeing that in a theater, just even the trailer, I was like, oh, this is great. I can't wait to watch this movie.
Yeah. Of these trailers, I didn't pay attention really to the Jay Kelly. I saw the posters that were put out for that film, and with Noah Baumbach and all that stuff with George Clooney. So I will see it. I didn't watch the trailer. Rental Family, I did see bits of the trailer, and I was like, this looks wild, but also really endearing. And I love Brendan Fraser, so I'm sold on that. Him has been one of the bigger trailers. It's a horror movie that I'm interested in. I don't know if the quality is going to match up to it. It feels like Blink Twice in terms of like horror films coming out, where I'm like, I'm very interested by the trailer. I don't know if the premise is going to last throughout the entire movie, because I'm like, I feel like everything goes south maybe in one sequence, and then the character should know what's going on. But I don't know. The trailer has worked for me. Marlon Wayans, at least again through the trailer, looks great. Mm-hmm. I think he can play that very charismatic but also very scary role, similar to like Channing Tatum in Blink Twice. So I'm excited by that. The Paper didn't make me laugh, that trailer, but again, I'm like, you know what? All right, I like the premise of like it's the same documentary crew that worked on The Office, and now they moved over and they make The Paper, and you have a good surrounding cast. You got Domhnall Gleeson kind of being the headliner of it, and then you get that moment where Oscar Nunez playing Oscar is sitting there and he recognizes the crew and he's like, no, no, not again. And I'm just, all right, I'm willing to sit with this and see if it works for me, as opposed to like writing it off because I'm like, I don't need this. Now I'm like, all right, I'll give it a chance at least. Yeah, Shelby Oaks is the big one for us, just because we're big Chris Stuckman fans, Jeremy Johns fans, Dan Murrell fans. We're big YouTube movie punditry fans, Screen Junkies when they were still around, and movie fights were a thing.
Collider,
yep. AMC Movie Talk. John Campea is my hero in life. And I remember listening, because I was driving, even though it was on YouTube, and I was definitely listening to Screen Junkies movie fights while driving up to see you in Duluth when you were still at school there. But Chris Stuckman, mainstay of both your and I's love for film, but also I remember I've ordered a Blu-ray for this movie before Neon picked it up. I'm like, am I still getting that Blu-ray even though now Neon owns the rights to this movie? Trailer looks great. Like it is a little formulaic. It's a disappearance story. It's kind of the mystery that unfolds with it, but it's a movie I'm really excited for. I forget the name of the lead actress that's cast in the movie, and I saw it in a report that she liking Chris Stuckman's review of the movie Hunter x Hunter, because she's one of the headlining actors in that film, and now she's the lead of Shelby Oaks, and I can't wait to see it because I remember watching Hunter x Hunter and I really liked her in that film. Did you pull up her name at all?
Camille Sullivan.
Sullivan. She was fantastic in Hunter x Hunter, and I'm really excited to see her in this. The story does feel a little, or at least the trailer feels a little formulaic. The story has a lot of intrigue behind it, so I'm really excited. And I can't wait to finally see this movie that I feel like I've heard about for so long, for like 4 years, which not everyone's a big Chris Stuckman fan or knows who Chris Stuckman is, so it's something that's a little bit special to those who know of Chris Stuckman when he's been able to bring it up of like, hey, we're funding it. Hey, we're shooting it. Now we're in post-production. And then they had reshoots, and now the movie's got acquired by Neon, and he worked with Mike Flanagan, and now the movie's coming out. And it's something while it's not my most anticipated movie of this year, it's one of the things I'm most intrigued by and excited to go see. And the trailers look promising. It's when you hear about like a YouTuber turned film director or working in the film business, you're like, all right, you show me this trailer, am I going to see the seams of it? Is it going to look like a home video? I don't know why that's what I'm associating or assuming of this movie, but it's just I'm waiting for a seam to show, and I didn't see a single seam. It looked like a very convincing horror film. While sometimes it's formulaic, I'm sold on this trailer. I can't wait to see it. Good or bad, I'm a big supporter of Stuckman, so it's just like I can't wait to go see what he was able to finally put out. It's a cool story with what he's been able to do with this movie. In interesting news, weird news, 20 years late news, we are getting a couple of sequels to one of the biggest earners in terms of R-rated films at the domestic and worldwide box office, and that is The Passion of the Christ. Sequels were announced coming from Mel Gibson, but in 2027 we will be getting not one but two films that will follow up The Passion of the Christ. That is The Resurrection of Christ Part 1, releasing on Good Friday, which will be March 26th, and then Part 2 on Ascension Day, May 6th. So we have a month and a couple weeks, or a month and a week, separating those releases. But as funny as that announcement I feel like should be to me, I'm so intrigued by this. Because I watched The Passion of the Christ when I was probably like 18 or 19. Not that I was like holding off on it, just I was late to seeing it. And I thought that I should go back, watch it as something that was kind of monumental when it at least was released. And I dug that film, and regardless of what you believe in, I think it's a well-made film. And I enjoyed watching it, even though at times it goes against things that I believe in, and whatever. Cry about it if you want. And then they announced the sequel not too long ago, and now we're getting not one but two of them. And I'm really intrigued by that. I will definitely be seeing, on March 26th, on Good Friday, I'll be seeing Resurrection of Christ Part 1. Hopefully it's good. And then I will likely see the second one. It's news that I feel like could be played as a joke, but it's just like interesting to see 21 years on from the original release of that first movie, Passion of the Christ, which has so much kind of history wrapped around it, and it was for the longest time the highest earning R-rated film for a while. And now we're getting its sequels coming from Mel Gibson. So I'm interested. I'm intrigued. I will see it regardless of the trailers. I love Jim Caviezel. There's a movie with him and Dennis Quaid called Frequency that is a movie that is so embedded in my DNA that anything Jim Caviezel is in, whether it's shit or not, I need to go see. But I have high hopes and high anticipation or expectation in terms of what Mel Gibson is able to put on screen in terms of his directing, so I'm seeing this.
Yeah, it feels like it could go one of two ways, where we see a lot of faith-based movies come out, and a lot of them actually do pretty well at the box office, just with their budgets and then coming out, and there's obviously a crowd that comes out to see them. And that certainly could be the case here. And I think on the flip side, it could be, we talked about the Horizon movies with Kevin Costner, where he's like, I have this 2-part thing coming out. It's kind of my passion project that I want to do. The first part came out a couple years ago. It didn't do well. I saw it in theaters.
I did not. Fucking avoided that shit like the plague.
It's a fine Western. It's okay. It's whatever. But the second part has still yet to come out. Will it ever come out? I don't know. We'll see. But
straight to streaming.
That could happen here. I don't know. It feels like it could go one of two ways, where it could be like, oh, these are huge movies, or maybe it falters off a bit. So we've got a couple years. It'll be interesting to see that. Another little bit of news we got is that for Star Wars Starfighter, the Sean Levy movie with Ryan Gosling and Mia Gotham there, Matt Smith was cast as the villain of the movie, which I really liked Matt Smith.
In Morbius.
In Morbius, yes. Yeah. My favorite, probably Marvel movie.
Ever.
Morbius.
Anything with the label of Marvel?
Yes.
Morbius. That's
absolutely. He's also good in House of the Dragon. Very good as a very dynamic character and good villain in that story as well. So I think he can be great here. Kind of cool to see after he was initially cast in Rise of Skywalker.
I completely forgot about that.
Yeah, it's like I forget which specific character. I think he was going to be like the son of Palpatine or something, or he was going to be some character in that movie. He got cut out of it. Cool to see him cast again here. He's got the acting chops, absolutely, to be a very convincing villain for this movie.
Yeah, I'm sold on it. I didn't watch like his run on Doctor Who. I'm not a big Doctor Who fan, so I feel like that's a lot of what he's been associated with. And now he's on House of the Dragon, which I also don't fucking watch. But I'm getting a lot of exposure to him. Granted, in a lot of shitty movies. He was in Terminator Genisys. Was he in that?
Really hit Genisys.
Genisys. It's spelt like a fucking idiot. So, Genisys. And then he was in Morbius, but also he was the best part in a really shitty movie. So, I don't know. There's always been something around him that's just been charming to me. So I've always been like eager to see him and find him in something that works for me in terms of a film fan, where I'm like, yes, you're great, thank you. But it's a Star Wars casting for a movie that I'm excited just because it feels like it's going to be kind of subsidiary and fall off the beaten path of like that Skywalker saga, and we'll get a new Star Wars film. I love the cast already, so adding a villain with someone who is a capable actor as Matt Smith. So honestly, I'm already more excited for this movie than I am for Mandalorian and Grogu. So I can't wait. And coming from Sean Levy, obviously. Also, we have an announcement, not to get off of the topic of Disney, but now it's Dulu, or is it? I don't know. Disney Plus and Hulu will be officially combining into one service in 2026, which just further proves that we're going back to that cable system of having channels, which is somewhat of a joke, somewhat not. But this is something that I feel like has been kind of long coming. There's been a partnership between Disney Plus and Hulu for a long time in terms of your subscription, so not surprised. Disney's owned Hulu. Like, now it's a full acquisition, so I'm not surprised. I wonder if they'll fall underneath one name, one roof. Disney is God, apparently, to everyone in the film industry and monopolizes everything, regardless of what the American Congress is willing to accept. So, fuck it. Disney owns everything. That's fine. But they're combining, as well as Disney and fucking Jupiter, Pluto, Saturn, Uranus. Every fucking thing in the world is under Disney. That's great.
Interesting to see just like how we came from cable TV, like you and I growing up, of like you had Charter and Dish and DirecTV, like all the different cable stuff. And then we've gone into the streaming wars of like everybody doing a streaming service. And we've seen it cut back a little bit. You know, we've seen Quibi, rise and fall.
In
very
10
quickly,
seconds.
Very quickly. But just seeing kind of the streaming wars going on, and now what I think you and I and many people have expected is just kind of some of those combining into one, back to kind of the cable service, like you mentioned.
Some of those lessers.
So very interesting. Doesn't surprise me all that much, and honestly, that's okay. Of like just getting a few streaming services, I'm all right with that. The last bit of movie news we had this week was one of the biggest surprises from this year. Final Destination Bloodlines is getting a sequel from one of the writers of that movie. Not confirmed yet when it's coming out or kind of any plot details, anything like that. But we're getting another one, which I'm cool with because I've liked all the movies. I watched them all this year before the new one, and Bloodlines was great. That's both of our favorite of the franchise. So absolutely excited to see what they do next. If there's any carryover of characters or if they do a completely different thing, I'm kind of cool either way, actually. So I'm excited to see what they do with the new Final Destination movie.
Yeah, I can't wait. Bloodlines was a massive surprise, and it, like you said, was the best of the franchise, and they did something entirely different from what the other 5 films kind of set up. So I'm sold. Do whatever you want. It's a franchise I have nostalgia for, but also I'm not tied to anything. So like I will allow them to do whatever the fuck they want, and I'm just happy to go see it, especially after Bloodlines. But that's about it in terms of this week. Thanks for sitting down and having some liquor drinks with us for another episode of Slate Night, the Film Fan Podcast. Be sure to follow us on Instagram and TikTok for more in-depth movie reviews as well as movie news. And subscribe to our podcast and listen to the 2-3 ads you get per episode. Depends on how fucking long we yap about. But in the world of film, it's not just about what happens on screen, but also who's sitting next to you in the theater. And hopefully it's not a 4-year-old watching Weapons with you, because Jesus Christ, be a good parent.
Yes.
A rant that didn't happen in this episode, but just pissed me off when I watched Weapons.
Yes. For Mason and I at Slate Night, that's a wrap.